Time for our monthly look at the wool market. Grant Edwards joins us. He's the GM of wool for PGG Wrightson. And Grant, we had our first really big sale for the season in Christchurch yesterday, and this is following on from what's happening across the Tasman in Australia. Our Australian correspondent Chris Russell has been keeping me informed on this one. But the prices for our fine wools, which have been very good, have taken a real tumble, and this is all because of Mr. Trump and China.
That's for certain, Jamie, and good afternoon to yourself, of course, and all your listeners. Australia set the scene a little bit from a price perspective worldwide, given that, they produce somewhere around about 1.7 to 1.8 million greasy bales a year, compared in a fine wool situation where we would be in the vicinity of sort of 60 to 70,000 bales. So we have to and do watch closely on what's happening in Australia. Australia have go into recess in early to mid-July for 3 weeks, and they've recently come back a couple of weeks ago. In that time, it was predicted the prices would come off a bit, but certainly not to the scale, and we've seen prices declining on a daily basis in those Australian markets to the vicinity of around 15 to 25% drops since they did come back. And that, in a clean price basis, is around $3 to $5 a kilo clean, Jamie, depending on the micron.
Fine wool has been held up as the silver bullet, if you want, but New Zealand is very dependent on strong crossbred wool. That's what we produce most of. It's not flash either, but it probably treaded water a bit yesterday compared to the fine wools.
Yes, it did, Jamie. We were compared to Napier last week. The crossbred offering would have been firm with our Napier sale last week. And the same token, compared to Christchurch 2 weeks ago, we were back about 1 to 3% or 5 to 7 cents greasy.
So, Grant, without wanting to repeat ourselves, because we've talked about this for the past couple of months, farmers are stuck in some ways between a bit of a rock and a hard place when it comes to preparing their wools for sale, because they're not being paid much for them, but there's a real premium on well-prepared wool versus stuff that's basically just kicked into the wool bale, especially if it's got vegetable matter or discolouring. So as much as it pains farmers perhaps to pay an extra wool handler, you would get a return on your investment, right?
Definitely, Jamie. We're certainly seeing that strongly in the marketplace, and that's right across all wool types. That's through our fine wools. We've had a better growing season out there in the country, which has created more vegetable matter. We're seeing more seed like horehound, etc., coming through in the wool. And if that's left in the wool, it tends to be around the bellies and the skirtings. If they're taken out, you can improve the quality of the fleece body will considerably and the price accordingly, as you've indicated.
Grant, we've talked on this show about sheep meats and how dependent we are on China there. 51% of our sheep meats by volume now heading in there. It's an amazing stat. And I know that we're very dependent on China also for wool. So what's playing out on the international stage at the moment? And I know you keep a close eye on this with these tariffs being imposed in a tit-for-tat fashion almost between China and the US, is really kicking New Zealand farmers in the guts.
It is, Jamie, and it's having implications not just in the wool market, it's wider. We've seen it in logs, etc. But largely, from my understanding, America have put 25% tariffs last April on yarn and fabric production out of China. And then as recently as a month or so ago, they've indicated as at the start of September, which of course is where we are now, their view was to put another 10% tariff on anything else that hasn't already been tariffed. So as you can understand from that creates a lot of uncertainty. It creates price changes, if you like, in those marketplaces for all products. And it's having a huge implication. We've also got Brexit, and I'm not sure where that one's going. But it's just created so much uncertainty in the financial marketplace. With our crossbred wools, or with our wool market across all wool types, we're selling about 50% of our wool goes to China. I understand, with the likes of Australia that we touched on before, there's somewhere around about 70% of their current production goes to China for that further processing. So the significant things that are happening in the world market that it just makes us so vulnerable, Jamie, that we can't necessarily adjust or control, but we need to understand what's happening out there. And as I say, it's not just in the wool market, it's across. One thing we are seeing in the wool markets, it shows where some growers have elected to contract their wools. It can take some of this vulnerability out of it. And we do, as a business, we do quite a bit of contracting with growers. You know, last year in that fine wool situation, the contracts were slightly off where the open market was, or the option market was, for want of a better term. But this year it's turning the other way. With those contracts, I would like to state, however, that it's not necessarily about trying to beat a market, or it shouldn't be about trying to beat a market. It's about linking with an end manufacturer with the same principles as the growers, and understanding how that works and the pricing accordingly.
Well, Grant Edwards from PGG Wrightson, we'll always appreciate your commentary here on The Country. We'll catch you again next month.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks to all your listeners. I'm sure we'll have better news going forward when we do see that sustainability, biodegradable things from wool coming through in the market.